Hi, my name is Maria Jerez, and this is my presentation of Paper 3 for ACE Global Perspectives. My question deals with whether or not developing nations should undertake oil exploitation in order to prosper economically. Two perspectives have emerged regarding this question. One perspective believes that developing nations should undertake oil exploitation. The other perspective believes that they should not. Supporters of the viewpoint that developing nations should undertake oil exploitation point to the fact that oil has the potential to generate large amounts of revenue, and that this revenue can then be used by the developing nations to do things such as broaden their educational systems, fight crime, fight poverty, and other things of the such. One example of a supporter of this viewpoint is Nigerian Tony Izuogu, who stated, "A good number of us went to school almost free of charge. Our parents didn't pay a cent. Additional teachers were hired from Ghana and India, and textbooks were imported and supplied, all with the oil money." This demonstrates how many are thankful to the oil industry and its revenue because they believe that it has given them many social benefits, such as education. Another reason pointed to when defending the exploitation of oil in developing nations is the fact that oil attracts foreign investors, which obviously contributes positively to the economy. One last reason usually cited is that oil strengthens political ties with other nations because oil can be exported to them. Supporters argue that building stronger ties with economic powers like the United States and China is another great step towards economic development. Opposers to this perspective argue that developing nations should not exploit their oil resources. One reason usually pointed to is the environment. An energy source tells us that oil is extracted through large drilling platforms from oil reserves, where the remains of marine microorganisms accumulate over millions of years and gradually infiltrate the seafloor sediment and rock as they decay. This, along with examples such as how oil exploitation in Brazil has hurt the Amazon, show that exploitation tends to have a negative consequence on the environment. Another reason pointed to is the volatility of oil prices. Exported commodities such as oil tend to have fluctuating prices, and those who believe that oil exploitation is not a good idea argue that these fluctuations in price can hurt the economy and the people. For instance, Moses Nair of the Financial Times wrote, "In the past 24 months, for example, oil shot up from less than $80 per barrel to 147, then fell to 30, and again moved up to $60 by mid-2009. These boom and bust cycles have devastating effects. The booms lead to overinvestment, reckless risk-taking, and too much debt. The busts lead to banking crises and draconian budget cuts that hurt the poor who depend on government programs." The counter-argument to this is that the revenues of oil make up for these consequences. This can be seen in the Energy Journal entry written by Nazli Chokri, Christopher High, and Michael Lynch, saying that having attained more than simple oil self-sufficiency, many developing countries such as Angola, Syria, Malaysia, Tunisia, and Mexico have recently become oil exporters of some note. My personal perspective on this issue is that while oil is a valuable natural resource that does obviously have the power to generate much revenue, I believe that what gets a nation out of poverty is not a natural resource so much as human resources, the skilled labor force. We can see this in contrasting a place like Japan with many poor, oil-rich countries. Japan does not have abundant natural resources, and yet it has been able to prosper economically due to its very skilled labor force. In contrast, although many African and Middle Eastern countries have abundant oil and other natural resources like diamonds and gold, they have remained poor and underdeveloped. I think that a great reason for this is the corrupt leaders of these nations, but I don't think that the oil is the main factor that will help them rise out of this. I think that oil should be used, not exploited, and I believe that it should be used very carefully because although it is abundant, it is still limited. It's very valuable, it's a very valuable resource, and it should be taken as such. However, before focusing on whether or not these nations should exploit oil, it is important to focus on establishing proper governments and educating the people to create a skilled workforce. Once this happens, the oil can be exploited because now we will know that the profits will be used for the right reasons. Researching this topic somewhat changed my mind because now I understand the need to carefully manage natural resources and the profits that they may generate. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.